And so I did 3 games in 2010. Then 2011, they re-signed me, and I do like 12 games. Stas gives me a full season.
Okay.
And I'm doing the American wasn't around back then, but I was doing Big East and Conference USA, and then I was doing everything. And do that in 2011, 2012. I'm doing more. And then 2013, ESPN gives me a package, it's called. Right. I end up doing the national high school package with Adam Amin was my play-by-play partner. Adam works for Fox now, and he's done tremendous for himself. And then do a year of the high school package, and in 2014, get put on college packages and kind of just steady as she goes. Now we're 2022, and I'm still doing it. And I primarily do games on ESPNU, but ESPN2. I mean, here's the thing about me, and they know this. I don't complain. I don't bitch. I love college football with a passion, so it doesn't matter what the team's records are. I mean, I'm like everyone else. If I can get a nationally ranked game with a lot of excitement, of course I would want that. But at the end of the day, I'm getting paid to give my quote-unquote expertise and experience as an analyst about a game that I love, that I really do. Right. So it's been phenomenal. So that's basically how I broke in. And I should back up, too, and say the first game I ever broadcasted for the UMass Sports Network was UMass at Kansas State. And I quick story. So, again, I paid for everything, right? So I fly to Kansas City on my own dime. I get a rental car. They're like, would you like an upgrade, sir? Because I'm such a newbie. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So they give me like a Dodge Charger. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah, well, they charged me for the upgrade. It wasn't a freebie, but I learned.
They upsold you.
And so, Manhattan, Kansas is where Kansas State is. And it was a really good game. UMass almost knocked them off. And, of course, though, after that game, the team flies home, charter, and my flight is the next morning. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to save money. I'm maxing out my credit card, so I don't get a hotel room. So I remember I slept in my rental car that night outside of the rental car at the airport. But I was on cloud 9, man.
Listen, you paid for the upgrade. I think it's okay for you to sleep.
When I got done doing that game, which was radio, I was on cloud 9 too. Yeah. I knew I loved it. When I got done doing that first ESPN 3 game, which yes, it's internet, but it's for people. It's TV. Yeah. The production. Basically, they can hit a switch and put it on TV from the internet, okay? When I got done doing that game, I was on like 10 times higher Cloud9 than I was radio. I mean, I really knew I loved to do this. And then, again, it morphed into, bigger national games. And now obviously, I have a package where I do a national game every week. And I love it. And so... And then I stayed on. I mean, I was a detective. Like I merged the two careers. Yeah. And then in 2020, I retired when I became eligible because I had the ESPN job. I mean, if I didn't have that, I'd probably still be working right now like you. But I had that second career to fall back on, and so I love it. It's just it's phenomenal, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And it's been great.
Now you got to put it out there that. I think I speak for everybody that knows you and for everybody that's listening right now. Rene likes to use colorful language. He really does. And so there used to be like pools. Yeah. Was he going to make it through the whole broadcast without saying anything bad?
I curse a lot. That's it's Lent. I haven't.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I haven't sworn.
Is that what you, yeah?
It's the same thing every year. Well, I've been working out hard, so I gave up soda before Lent. So I can't double dip, right? I mean, I could.
Right.
Yeah.
But the cursing thing's good. I mean,
because I do. I curse like a drunken sailor, and a lot of that's from being a cop. Because here's the deal, folks, okay? In the real world, when you get out of a police car, when you walk up to a scene as a detective, people look you up and down.
Yep.
Bad guys, good guys, citizens. I mean, okay? And the first thing the bad guys look at is, okay, can I take this guy? Can I take this woman? If it's a female officer or detective, is this a guy to mess with? Is this a guy to test? Like they know, right?
Yeah.
And so I've always spoke colorful language, and I'll tell you how it is. And I can be forceful at times. So I tend to curse a lot. I'm not proud of it. And so people are amazed. They're like, how
amazed
do you not curse on air. And I tell people, I have like a little chip in my brain. And I think that chip knows if I curse, I'm probably going to lose this job that I absolutely covet and love. So, yeah, it's pretty good.
I think it's the same thing like when you go to court. I mean, you can't talk like that in court. So you know that there's a certain way to talk in certain places.
Well, I mean, listen, if your testimony is what someone said to you.
Well, that's different. But, yeah, I don't get up on the stand and
Correct.
drive a couple MFers and stuff like that.
Correct.
But I think the other thing is it was fun for us, at work because there's this guy, hey, he's on television. You tell your family, hey, Rene's going to be on ESPNU or whatever. This is his game, and everybody watches. And I know there's quite a few times where you get a lot of text messages.
Adam, I mean,
trying to get you to say like things. Yeah,
Adam Amin would always tell this story. It's a true story. So one of the things you do as a broadcaster is you have to do coaches calls. Now everything's
right.
Zoom calls, right?
Yep.
Which is even more. So I would have to schedule those coaches call. Like they'd be like, okay, the coaches calls Wednesday at 1 p.m. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it work.
Sure.
I'm not going to tell people, hey, I got another job. Yeah. No one cares.
Right.
I'll make it work. So we had a call, and sure enough, it's the only time this ever happened to me in 10 years. 15 minutes before the coach's call, a bank robbery happened.
No.
So I was a robbery detective. Yep. And so bank robberies for the robbery unit are akin to a homicide for the homicide unit. Everybody goes,
yep.
Especially during daytime,
yep.
which banks are open during the day. That's when they're going to happen. So everyone goes. So I had to call Adam and say, I can't make this call. I'm on my way.
Were you primary on that?
Lights and siren to a bank robbery. Yeah, I think it was my area.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry. And the producer, I think it was Joe McCoy, and they loved it. They thought it was like the coolest thing ever. So they tell the coach, hey, our analyst couldn't make it. He's at a bank robbery right now.
Not doing it. He's investigating.
He's at a bank robbery right now. Yeah, not doing it, investigating it. And so I missed that call, but I know Adam tells that story. And so those were the things you just kind of juggled. Another funny story, as I told you, Stas Haas was my boss, my first boss. And it's this 2000. So I had worked 2010. I said 2011. They gave me a full season.
Right.
And 2012, again, full season. I'm doing ESPN 3 stuff. And I was doing syndicated stuff. They still had syndicated stuff where the Big East Network was on TV, but it was, cable, maybe half the country or a quarter of the country. Okay. Syndication's gone now. So now it's either national or it's ESPN Plus,
right.
Which is national too. I was at an armed robbery. A computer store got robbed.
Okay.
In South Orlando. And so we're at the robbery and we're doing our investigation. We're walking around. We're looking at video and my phone rings and it's Stas Hall, my boss. And I told you, Stas.
You don't get calls from him.
Never. Stas had never called me.
Is that like the Turk? Oh,
Stas had never called me. I had never, at that point in 2012, I don't think I had ever spoken to Stas. Everything was email. Because I'm not going to bother him. He's giving me games, right? He calls me and I'm like, I'm at a robbery and I'm like, I don't answer because I'm afraid. I'm like, I think it's bad.
Yeah.
So I go to...
He's going to cut me.
Go to our sergeant. And... Sergeant time, a guy by the name of Darren Eason. He's a lieutenant now.
Darren.
I go, Sarge, my ESPN boss just called me, Stas Hall. He's like,
go call him back.
Call him back. Yeah. So I look, and Stas leaves me a message like, hey, call me back. So I call him back. I'm like, hey, I'm at a robbery. Sorry, I didn't pick up.
Please don't fire me.
He goes, and so this is like a Tuesday. He goes, hey, can you do the Florida State-Miami game for ESPN National Radio Saturday? I'm like, yep.
Yeah. Hold on.
Again,
let me check my schedule.
Again, flexibility. Don't say no.
Yeah.
And it's Miami, Florida State, which is a huge rivalry, especially in 2012. They were both really good.
Sure.
And Darren, my sergeant, is a Florida State grad.
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, I'm doing the game for ESPN National Radio. And again, so that was a Tuesday, and that game was a Saturday. And so Mark Kestisher ended up being my play-by-play partner, and I've become friends with Kesty, so I still talk to him. Ian Fitzsimmons, who has a radio show at ESPN and is does a ton of ESPN radio still, was sideline. So go up there and do the game. And I remember it was a really good game. And there was a real goofy play in the end zone with EJ Manuel, who works for us now. He's an analyst for ACC Network, and he's a studio guy. And I know EJ does some games, but he was the starting quarterback for Florida State. And there was an issue with him throwing the ball away. There was a flag. And I immediately said, because knowing the rules is one of my like pet peeves when people don't know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, don't guess. Just let the referee tell you. But I take pride in knowing the rules.
Kind of like
and
laws.
So I knew immediately when he threw the flag and everyone was kind of looking, I said, hey, they need to see where he was, where that ball was, because this may be a safety. He may be called for intentional grounding. He's in the end zone. It's going to be a safety. And they were reviewing it, and they were looking, this and that, and sure enough, it was a safety. So I was right. So I remember, when you hit something like that quickly, without
you didn't have to look anything
looking at any replays and knowing it in real time, it bodes well for you. The producer of that game was a guy that I'm friends with now. His name's Ted Ganji. He lives in Dallas. He's not producing anymore, but Ted produced that game. And this is how you move up the ladder.
Sure.
So obviously I was doing ESPN 3 and I get this national radio game and I want to move up to regular national games, right? Get a package.
Yeah.
And so the next step up, ESPNU, my next boss, guy by the name of John Vassallo, they name him JV, and JV was one, again, horrible loss for the company. They let him go after like 23 years. They let so many people go, but just so much knowledge, and I thank JV every day, and I learned so much from him, but he was my CP at ESPNU.
Okay.
So he was my boss really for the last 5 or 6 years.
Right.
And, I would speak to him a lot. Now, I talk to him. It's funny. I talk to him more now than I do, than I did when he was my boss, because I left him alone. So I know he's going to listen to this podcast, and he's already yelled at me once because he said, stop talking about yourself and get to true crime, because that's your niche.
Oh, is that guy?
Do true crime. So JV, we're going to, I have OCD. I couldn't just skip the storytelling process. I had to finish it. And this way people can go back and listen to my stupid story. But so I love JV. Well, I went up to Charlotte because that's where ESPNU was headquartered. Now it's just the SEC network. Took it upon myself to meet JV, and I'll never. God, I gotta stop. I really have said that, but there's a million things in my life that I will never forget because it's all a building block to get to where I was.
It's been a hell of a ride.
I was in his office. He knows Ted Ganji, the guy that did the radio game. I did the radio game 3 months earlier. He calls Ted in his office while I'm there.
Really?
I don't know Ted. I didn't give Ted a heads up.
Right.
And Ted goes, he was great. There was a rule and he hit it right away and everyone didn't know, but he knew it, Right. And so I felt good. And it was that next year that I got the high school package, the national package.
Sure.
And so not only did Adam and I do high school games, at the end of the year we did college games, and we did a bowl game, and then so just slowly moved up the ladder. So everything has a purpose, right? When you're in this business, but I absolutely love this business. And again, I think being a police detective and doing broadcasting at the same time helped me in both respective careers and professions. I really think it did, in a weird way. So, but now I am a full-time broadcaster. I say that because I'm, you
don't have to worry about
I don't have any games now, although I do have a spring game coming up. And so I don't know where I'll get assigned a spring game. So, but it's been fascinating. And so that's kind of my story. I know a lot of people always wonder that. So, JV, that's it. The story's told. And in all seriousness, I do thank JV a lot because he gives me a lot of guidance and will watch my games back and give me advice. Because again, professional rookies. I've been broadcasting for 12 years now with ESPN. You're always learning. You always need to get better. You always need different people to look at you, because if your family just keeps looking at you, your mom, you're great, honey.
Listen, according to my
phenomenal.
family, I'm carrying this show. I don't know if you know that or not.
Exactly. True friends will give you some constructive criticism. And I have some out there, that will.
Well, JV, whatever I'm doing.
And people
wrong,
have biases. And listen, I'm one of those broadcasters where I honestly just try to get out of the way, give you my expertise, my experience on something, and get out of the way. It's unbelievable the money they're giving broadcasters today, the A broadcasters, the quote unquote A broadcasters. And hey, God love you. I'm never going to begrudge you. If they want to give you $90 million contract, they want to pay you $17, $18, $19 million a year. I'm all for it.
Sure.
But I honestly don't believe people watch games for the broadcasters. I just don't. I tell people this all the time.